So yesterday on stream, we were actually progging the new hard mode version of the raid. So if you don't know, that's like a 16,000 ability score recommended, but most of us were actually 14 to 15,000 ability score. However, we did have to pug a few members, and the longer we continued to prog and more pugs we had to add to the group, we quickly started to notice people are somehow pushing even further than that. People are pushing to 15.5, 16, 17, 18,000 ability score. Most of us thought that we were already towards the like what was possible cap. And this game is a pay to win game, so it's entirely possible maybe they're just full yellow imagines level 5 with full skills and everything like that. But it didn't really seem like it made sense, especially after some of the testing that I had done for things like imagines and ability score advancement and stuff like that. So it didn't really seem like it was even possible to hit 18,000 ability score. Here's what we found out. The answer might surprise you. And then I came across red, and finally I had to know. How are they doing this? What is happening? Is it truly just pay to win? What was happening to get these players to this higher item level? And Red, being the very nice individual that they were, was happy to explain everything in enough detail so we could try and get a good picture about what's actually happening. I really want to add a disclaimer here before we get too far into this. Use this information for good. Do not use this information to artificially inflate your score, to get into activities that you shouldn't be in, because people are going to figure it out when your damage isn't there, right? So again, use this information for good, not evil. However, that being said, it is important that we do talk about it because we do want to hopefully get Blue Protocol to change and redesign this system. It doesn't really make sense to have been designed this way, and it artificially increases the ability score that is gained by some classes by upgrading their skills first, and other classes are going to get left behind when it comes to that ability score because their better value is upgrading skills that don't give them the most amount of score. And keep in mind, we're only in the beginning of this. We only have ranks 1 to 6 right now. If this continues, it is only going to get much worse into the future. So we do want them to address this and ideally fix it before they add new levels to the skills. So we're going to cut to the chase a bit early here, but before I do, if you guys want to take the time to like the video down below, leave a comment if you want to ask any questions or discuss anything. I'm always down to talk to you guys. And then also subscribe to the channel. We are getting closer to that 500 sub mark that we're trying to hit on YouTube, and I would greatly appreciate the support. But I do want to get the numbers out so that way people who are just here trying to get this information can get it. If you're curious about the process, not only just the numbers, but also looking at how we can get a little bit more score and things like talents and stuff, continue watching the video. After doing a bit of testing, here's what I found. So originally I only tested Thundercut here. And that was kind of what I did my initial impression of, was I did the first 3 levels and found that I only got about 177 points for all 3 levels here, which didn't really seem that impressive. Now, if you've looked at this data already, you might see there's a few things that are kind of strange. One example being this one. This is a huge one. Upgrading your special actually gives you the same value as 2 entire expertise skills. And if you were going to target something like a basic skill, you'll actually find that you're getting less than even an expertise skill. So depending on your class and what abilities you are supposed to level first for your damage, you might actually be missing out on a lot of this additional ability score that you could have gotten if you invested in, let's say, your special or your ultimate, because these two give significantly more score than some of the other options, right? So my class in particular needs to level up Thundercut and then basic attack, which does mean that I'm investing in the one that gives the least amount of ability score as one of my very first options. So what you guys are seeing is a breakdown of my overall ability score. And so let's compare this to what Red said. So first off, Red said that for talents, they had 1,015. Notice how my talents aren't 1,015. For skills, they had 5,829. Now this is a big one, right? Look at the difference between our skills. 5,829 is almost 3,000 additional score just from the skill book upgrades. But again, remember, this doesn't really make sense with our previous testing that we did. So again, for reference, we did test upgrading one of our expertise skills, and we upgraded from level 1 to level 3. So level 1 gave us 30 skill roughly, level 2 also gave us roughly 30 skill, and level 3 gave us roughly 100 skill. Across our skills, that doesn't really add up. So there has to be something odd happening here. For gear, they're at 7,398, which is interesting. And so what they said was actually that they had some purple level 60 gear, and then we're still using a bunch of level 40 yellow gear. Now, I actually have a higher gear score than this person here, but their score is significantly higher than mine. Obviously, due to some of the things that we had just mentioned, their emblem was 682, a little bit higher than mine at 581. So again, I could just do some more FK farming and probably level that up some more. And then their modules were 358, where mine is only 198. So almost double my modules. So let's just take a look and break down at what's happening. So first of all, their skills in particular were definitely the big standout, right? And so that kind of warranted some extra investigation. Now, previously I had done a little bit of research into the skills and found that roughly skills didn't really seem to give that much. Now, when I did my testing, I tested on Thundercut level 1, 2, and 3, and had found that it only gave 35, 36, and 106 for level 3. So for the number of books, I kind of didn't think that they were going to give that much value, and I figured that even if it repeated that, we would only be looking at, roughly 350 ability points per skill, which is still quite a lot. But the amount of books that you would need to get that would be pretty significant. But if you're only getting 350 per skill, it didn't quite make sense. How were they almost 3,000 more ability score for their skills than me? So that warranted a little bit more investigation. So as you saw in the previous section, obviously, upgrading all of their skills to max level was definitely part of why they had so much score. However, we did notice, right, that you can get a ton more score for picking probably less optimal options in terms of your damage, just to get a lot more ability score up front. Again, that's not something that I'm necessarily recommending that you do, but it is something to keep in mind and to understand about this system. But that wasn't the only difference in our ability score. Remember, our talents had less, and our modules in particular also had less. So why is that the case? You may already be aware, but your talents do actually give you points in your ability score. So if I was to reset this node, you'll see that I actually dropped about 26 ability score. So if we go and we add it back to our node, we got that 26 ability score back. Now, not every talent tree is equal. And so what that means is that depending on your pathway through your talent tree, you might actually be getting more of these larger nodes than you would otherwise, meaning that you get more of your ability score. So some classes get more of a benefit from their talent tree than others. And you'll see that if I remove this node here, which gives me agility, my main stat, I only lose about 3 more ability score. And so again, there are just some classes that will have easier paths through their talent tree that give them access to more ability score directly through this than others. And in this case, red happened to be a marksman, and they have apparently a more optimal path that gives them more of these larger nodes and allows them to get more ability score through their tree. Now, when it comes to modules, as I said in my module video, if you actually go in here and you look, you actually need to hit the level 5 in order to get the big value from a module, which does mean that you need 16 nodes. What you'll see here is that I currently only have 15 nodes for this elite one. So it means I don't have access to level 5 just yet. I need one more node to get it to level 5. However, you can see my overall effect is 23, and that's the added total of all of these. So 10 plus 5 plus 7 plus 1 is 23 there. But what you'll see is that if I actually change it to this node or this node, we lose quite a bit, even if we will finally get that increased damage to elites activated for the level 5. And that's because of the way that the levels work on your modules. Notice how all of my gear goes down in terms of raw stats as well. So luckily it does actually prioritize getting some of these additional level 5 damage values or increases. We can see if we go back to my module score, it is significantly higher now. Even though I did drop a lot of the effect score here, I do have this level 5 now, which ended up being an overall increase in my module score. So what that means is, at least for red, they actually have even higher rolled modules than I do, and so they probably have 2 good modules with 2 decent effects. Now, realistically, to really min-max your score here, you might want to try and go for any of the recommended for you that gives you the highest ultimate value. For me, that actually does end up being this combination here. Unfortunately, I just don't have very good spreads on my different modules, and many of the abilities that I'm looking for, I don't even have at all. So if you're like me and you're just trying to make the most of it, just know that you're going to be lacking some score when it comes to modules, but I assume over time this will get a lot better. Well, hopefully that kind of helps to explain maybe where people are seeing some of those increases in gear. So yes, definitely the pay to win aspect is definitely in play here, but we do have the ability to kind of cheese and get a little bit more score if you're trying to. So for example, right, we could have gotten at least an extra 700 score and broken into the 15,000 ability score range if we really wanted to push it. However, I'm more than happy to continue working towards being more optimal on my damage and then making my ability score just rise over time, doing the regular daily activities and other stuff we've talked about in other videos. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like the video, give the video a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Peace.